Good morning. Welcome to Mending Threads. This is your safe place and your stronghold for whole body wellness. This morning, we have chosen as our topic caregiving love. Most people do not think of preparedness, planning, and helping other people do the same as love. They think of some emotional attachment and all kinds of images. So I'm wanting us to include this as what we talk about um, unselfish love, love where you actually, from your heart and your mind, care for another person. And you have to begin to think of the moment and the time that you're in. What are you doing in this moment that is giving love to another person? True love. We have with us this morning Dr. Floyd Atkins from Center for Wellness and Healing. And he is our premier doctor on what to do when. Okay, and I do know that everybody's looking forward to hearing from him coming up at the end of August. We have people signing on so that they can begin to talk to him and ask questions and about what to do. So today we want to get it started, and we're going to be looking at many different topics of what do we do for ourselves. And let's look at organization. We're going to look at food and planfulness. So how do we get started with preparedness, Dr. Atkins?
Well, there's a number of ways we get started, but the primary way when we get started in healthcare in general is to really take care of our bodies. Our body is a temple, and we must treat that temple like it's special. We treat it like it's sacred. So the food we eat, the water we drink, the way we get our rest, the way we manage stress is one of the most key things we can do when it comes to preparing our bodies, because everything, all of those things I just mentioned, affects immunity. And when immunity is challenged, or when it's overly challenged, that's when problems come in. Disease can actually creep into our lives. When we talk about the coronavirus, the virus is similar to any other virus, although they identify it differently, give it a different name that says not the flu virus, it's something different. But when it comes to our bodies are designed to handle any type of virus. We can handle it if we are prepared for it. And we can see, and with this particular virus, depending on your immune health, well, depending on how you fare when it comes to exposure to the virus, or even if you receive the virus or you become sick by the virus, how you recover from it based on immunity. And we see that because we see the health disparities we see among people of color as opposed to general population. A lot of people of color, especially with pre-existing conditions, tend to not fare well. That's why we see larger numbers. We see in the Hispanic population, we see over 40% of the people who get sick have severe cases or are at risk for not surviving. And then with the African American population, that ranges anywhere from 25 to 30% of the population are at much greater risk. So again, and that is not just related to a color or ethnicity. That's really a factor of the health disparities, especially in the United States. And we talk about it, but this is really the evidence of it. It's the evidence of the health disparities not being equal.
Do you think that what is your perception about the health disparity? Is that around economics? Is it around habit? I mean, what do you think is bringing this health disparities or maintaining the health disparity indicators in terms of health?
Well,
Can we just talk about it a little bit? Yes.
yeah, at this point in history, I would say number one is economics. The cost of healthcare is so great. People who tend to be in a lower economic level or have challenges when it comes to expenses, that becomes low on the list of priorities. When people have economic problems, they look at buying food, having shelter, being able to take care of their family, having some a sense of disposable income to be able to enjoy life to some degree. And healthcare gets pushed way down the list of getting there. So people don't have health coverage the way they should. But I think systemically, we talk about systemic, and the popular term today is systemic racism. when it comes to the majority population relationship with the minority population. And what that means is that uh, I think, example, African American people, when it came to the Tuskegee experiment, we are afraid or suspicious of the healthcare industry because we've always been made a guinea pig or example when it comes to testing things. A lot of people in other minority populations have been in that same situation where either they were denied or had lower level of health care. And so we are skeptical of the health care we do get. So that's the second one. So economics first, and number two is the fear of the medical community. It keeps people away. People have to trust a doctor, and I know most people in minority communities have problems trusting doctors because you don't see people who look like you, and you don't see people who might understand your specific needs. So that's really the underlying cause, I think, of the health disparities.
I know we're engaged in a project right now where we're truly trying to identify and gain participation of neighborhood and community physicians,
Yes,
so that persons in the community would feel have an increase in trust and actually going to the doctors and taking preventive measures and planning their health in terms of preparedness.
yes. And a key term you just mentioned is prevention. Prevention is something that is not promoted in the community or not promoted, especially in the minority community. We are tend to wait till the house is on fire before we do anything. We wait till the diagnosis is in or we have severe symptoms. And that's something that has to be taught, has to be ingrained in people to understand that you want to be proactive about health. You don't want to wait to the point where you're having symptoms, because when you have symptoms, it's really too late. That means that some systems have broken down in your body and you start having not abnormal responses, let me put it that way. And so if we can train people and teach people that you do regular testing when it comes to your health, whether it's a blood test to know what your cholesterol levels are. We've had seminars before. We talked about know your numbers. You need to know what your hemoglobin A1C is. You need to know what your complete blood count is. You need to know what your cholesterol levels are. You need to know, even today we look at things like I would say your ANA and SED rate, which has a shows what your immune response is if you're having a autoimmune response, because that's a big problem. At one time, the number one killers are heart disease, and then the cancers coming number two. Uh,
Mhm.
but now things like autoimmune disease have moved up the scale to like the number three and four killers of people in America. And what that really says to us is that our immune system is malfunctioning. And so if your immune system is malfunctioning, then we don't have much hope of overcoming a lot of diseases, because again, that affects high blood pressure, it affects cholesterol, it affects blood sugar, it affects everything. So being proactive is a good way to do that. And I think we're going to talk about some things we need to do, because even with this COVID-19 situation, being proactive again is a way that we need to address the issue.
So
And
sometimes I think maybe we have to go back while we're putting the fire out or moving toward doing that. We have to begin. You know how they have to go back and get some sand and different stuff. We're gonna
yeah,
have to, because I think I've begun to interview and talk with people in the community, and I'm doing a needs assessment to find out what people need. And one of the things that I overlooked in the need assessment,
hmm,
because I was so busy looking at their habits around health and those, would be able to find out what do they think about themselves and what do they think about health.
yeah,
And what I'm finding is that we have not made an intervention so that people could appreciate themselves in order to engage in prevention.
yes.
So
And you're right. I mean, that's the underlying cause of all of our problems. We have to look at those psychological factors that cause people to make the decisions they make. And when we address those, we can really make a change. Because if I just treat your fever and your cough and your sneeze, which are symptoms of coronavirus and a lot of other diseases, I'm only treating the symptoms. I'm not getting under how are you resting at night? What are you exposing yourself to in your household, in your environment that's causing you to have that cough or sneeze? How are you protecting yourself when it comes to dealing with, pathogens that spread that way? So once you address those, you know, um, you can see changes. You can see people really improve their status and their position in life.
Yes. Well, we have a family I know who's watching this morning. They 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 um they called me to let me know that they would be watching.
Uh-huh.
And one of the things is that we've had some difficulty with them. They've gone through a lot of family difficulties and separations, and the children tend to have disorganization difficulties or problems in school, inattentiveness, concentration, health problems, diabetes, overweight, all of those issues. And so, what we're talking about is how to go as a parent and as an adolescent or a parent, what we could do first. How could we help them move and begin talking about them appreciating themselves, whether we're talking about their food, whether we're talking about their immune system. What can they begin to do? See, what can we say to them that it begins to be a personal issue, that they feel competence, that they have a sense of competence. Now, I just wanted to see what your thoughts were, and then I want you to see what you think about mine.
Okay.
Because I'm really working on this. I really got my energy to figure out to make this a turnaround for our patients and the people we work with and in the community.
Well, first of all, that is a challenging situation because it's very difficult for the parent. It'll start with the parent when it comes to the kids. And it's a challenging situation because when the parent's life or lifestyle is in turmoil, or what I like to call it flux or in change, it's very difficult to maintain your objectivity. But the main thing I want to say to the parent is that you want to really focus on have a sense of normalcy. And it seems overwhelming when things are chaotic to have a sense of normalcy, but you have to start off with one thing at a time. You have to start off with one protocol. With the kids, when your things are not in balance, you tend to make poor decisions when it comes to food and health choices. I talk about, when we're not able to sit down and prepare a meal in a household, we tend to take the fast food route. We go to McDonald's, we go to fast food restaurants, and we buy a lot of processed foods. Well, the processed foods, number one, are the keys when it comes to behavior because the artificial colors, artificial flavors, the chemicals, the dyes, the pesticides in the foods all affect our behavior because they all have an effect on on the way we feel, our energy levels, our response to situations, and so that affects the kids. And drinking sodas and drinks and sugars and candies, all of those things contribute to problems that may be underlying their problems. When we talk about ADD, ADHD, those problems are there, but we want to exacerbate the problems with poor food choices. And then again, poor sleeping habits. If kids don't have a regular schedule where they're able to go to bed at a certain time and get their proper rest, that's 7 to 8 hours of sleep. I think kids need a little bit. The younger kids might need up to 8 or 9 hours of sleep, but the at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep for the kids. They have to have that type of um, I guess, protocol or a schedule to be able to get that proper rest. Um, so, that's really the underlying factor to start with the diet. So we want to, have kids involved. We want to let them know that number one is going to be all right. Because if you feel out of balance about your kids' stress, then it just becomes a vicious circle where it folds back on you because you become more stressed. So I know it's a difficult challenge, but the parent has to develop that sense of normalcy in the household to some degree. Even if it's having a quiet time and talking to the kids in the evening, even if it's having the kids involved in food preparation, where you go buy carrots and vegetables and some things and have them prepare, have them be a part of it. Let them know you're not just on the outside and I have to caregive. We all have to do this together. So getting them involved is a good way. When we do diet and lifestyle changes with kids, getting the kids involved in food preparation is one of the big key factors in getting them to understand that food is important when it comes to our health and our behavior. So
Mhm.
controlling that is number one. Um,
I think one of the things, if I could interrupt you there, because I want you to remember, I think that the most important intervention we had was earlier on when we did cooking with the doctors. If
yes,
you remember that, we had a really program, and at that program, I think we got the highest feedback from those participants and families, in that we were able to identify as love the
yes,
food that we were preparing.
yes,
And that's something that there's a difference, because when I mentioned this one family, and then I'll come back to where we are, is
yes,
that they're buying the food that you mentioned with the dyes and whatever,
yes,
feel that they're not loving their children when they don't give it to them, and the children seem to be sad because they're not giving it.
right,
So as a provider, a caregiver for their children, they're thinking that they're loving their children, but in fact what it is that to love your child, one of the ways to look at that would be that you're doing something that's going to benefit them in their future and in their present, in terms of their health.
yes,
And so that was one. And the other thing, when you did the cooking with the doctor, when we did that program, we looked at a carrot.
yes,
When we prepared a carrot, we looked at how the carrot was showing love to the parts of the body.
yes,
And when we did each vegetable and whatever, we were saying what it does. And so now what where we are, people don't understand, I think, and what you're talking about, how is the food directly affecting the immune system. So when I'm talking to them, they have no, all of these things seem to be separate
right.
to the organization, the normalcy. So to look at that, so if you could explain how some of the foods actually mean, in terms of what does it mean to the body when you're talking normalcy of purchasing, buying food, what is it doing to the body in general, in a sense, so that they can visualize it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's about a 10-hour conversation.
I know, just
Let me let me take one. Let me take one.
take one.
Okay. When it comes to processed foods, or when it comes to buying foods that's pre-prepared, what your body needs in food, number one thing your body needs is fiber in the food. Fiber is a substance in the food, like in a carrot. Things you that are that you bite hard on, carrots, apples, um, they're rich in fiber. Things like grapes, bananas, and watermelon, they're very soft, so they have very little fiber. Fiber is important because fiber helps to balance blood sugar. So when we eat sugars or eat sweets or eat carbohydrates, if it stays high in our bloodstream, it can over time can cause a problem. It can affect other organs. It can cause inflammation. It can cause, and when I say inflammation, not only of your cardiovascular system, it can cause inflammation in your brain. It affects your thinking. It causes you to function differently. But fiber helps to absorb and may hold on to sugars and help them be more easily digested in our cells. So when we don't have fiber in our diet, our blood sugars can tend to run critically high. Our pancreas is overworked trying to maintain balanced levels of blood sugar. Where if we just had fiber, it would settle that problem. When we eat McDonald's or we eat processed food, when you cook food or you pre-prepare food that way, you literally destroy the fiber. A lot of food companies want to take the fiber out of the food because fiber tends to cause the food to spoil faster. When it spoils faster, they lose money. So they want the food to have a longer shelf life. So therefore, they take fiber out of the food. When we just one product is when it comes to bread, we look at bread as a processed food. You start off with wheat, and you would make flour, and the flour is called enriched flour. Well, the reason it's enriched flour is because when flour starts off, it has about 12 different nutrients in it. But if they leave those nutrients in it and put it in a bag and put it on a shelf, it'll last probably a week to 2 weeks before it will spoil. But if they take a lot of the nutrients out, that the fiber and the proteins and the grains out of it, they give it a longer shelf life. And so the government says that Well, you can take those things out of it to extend the shelf life of it. And if you put at least two of them back in it, once you finish, you can call it enriched flour. And so we go out and we buy enriched flour because we think it's good for us. And actually, enriched flour is a very poor choice because it's lacking 10 nutrients that our body needs every day. So
Mhm.
therefore, we're already working at a deficit. So just understanding fiber, understanding how food is processed. Now, most processed foods it has 80% of the nutrient value is gone. It's not there. So we're eating food just to maintain to relieve our stomach pains, but we're not getting nutrition. That's why
Mhm.
a country as rich as the United States can have all the food available, but we still malnourished. Our body is not nourished properly, and then we can't function properly. We get colds easily, we get flus easily. We tend to have fatigue problems. And, I always in my lectures, I always talk about one of the biggest issues in America is fatigue. Is well, two things: is dehydration and fatigue. And so
Yes.
we think the solve fatigue problem. That's why Starbucks is the number one selling company when it comes to selling drinking product because we think coffee is the answer. People drink coffee every day, think I like coffee. No, you like the stimulation you get from coffee because you wake up every morning fatigued because we don't get the nutrient value. So, if you take person's coffee away, they go nuts. And it's because I have to have my coffee in the morning. They would have commercials on the TV talking about you're a gorilla until you get your coffee and you can become a fine person. Well, that's because it gives you the energy to make it through the day. Otherwise, you're agitated.
Wow.
So those simple things like that. So we will have to find a way to make up for that. So if we have a good protein solution in the morning, have some carbohydrates, but protein and fats in the morning, good fats like avocado, or good fat like a grapeseed oil or coconut oil or a coconut dish. Those are the things that give you that don't raise your blood sugar so high. They give you excellent amount of fiber and protein. So that way
Mhm.
you don't have those highs and lows during the day where you have to have coffee or you have to have a Snickers bar or you have to have something to carry you through the day. You want the food you eat to carry you through the day. And that's what we're really missing in our diet. So, so when our lectures, we talk about those specific things, there are a number of things, those are only just two examples, fiber and then good fats and good oils because they really give you the energy you need throughout the day.
So, Dr. Atkins, give me
Yeah.
a couple of things that we could talk about for families or for mornings, since they're talking about back to school, that would give the children or the families a good fiber beginning or nutrient, with good nutrition that they're going to begin in the morning, for breakfast. Can you give us some ideas of um, fiber intake, so we can create some normalcy around their intake in the morning? They can begin to visualize what I can do while they're out shopping.
Well, I want to give a better idea of what breakfast should look like in the morning,
Yes.
and I use it based on my breakfast. It doesn't have to be number one. We have to cut out the breads and the carbohydrates. We think eating toast or having sweet rolls or some type of bread carbohydrate product is a good breakfast, a good start to the day. And it's really not. Even cereals. I know a lot of adults get upset with me because cereal is easy. You pour it out of the box, you add milk to it, and the kids are happy. But that is a very poor choice. That's a scenario for setting up diabetes later in life because your body operates on sugars and starches all day long. So we want to do more proteins and more vegetables. So to get kids to eat vegetables in the morning, we make smoothies. You do a combination of vegetables and a combination of fruits. We teach the kids how to get a blender. They get their favorite fruits. Maybe they'll get an apple. They'll get some mango, or they get pineapple. They'll get the fruits of their favorite, but you want to add at least one or two vegetables with it. So, the popular things are doing things like kale or doing things like some greens. And when you add the fruits to it and you get the kids to participate in making it, then they have that. But having that, and then we add a protein source like hemp seed or coconut flakes in it, or a different protein source we added to it. And again, I've shared recipes with you of how to make a green smoothie or what I call a green drink in the morning. And that way people it can take you all the way to lunchtime. And then at lunchtime, you want to have something like salads, or you have the carrot sticks. You can do hummus. You can do some nut butters. We prefer to do things like almond butter or do a cashew butter and make a lettuce wrap with it. You can find a number of different ways to roll or wrap your sandwiches up that way. But if you have to have a, I guess, plant source for kids who are not sensitive, an organic egg, make it in a roll, adding vegetables to it. We make an egg and we add kale to it. We add maybe some bell peppers to it to give it texture, and you know, not necessarily add the cheeses to it. We'll leave the cheese out because cheese is very mucus producing and it tend to congest our respiratory system, and is more sensitive to allergies that way too. So having like an egg tortilla with a vegetable in it, we want to add that to it because the egg is a good protein source and kale is a good fiber source. You can wrap it up in a lettuce wrap. You can wrap it up in a cauliflower wrap. But we want to get away from doing bread every day because that would be a big help. And for a lot of parents, I know what I'm saying, it seems like a big change, but you have to start off making those changes now. Those changes are necessary because if not, we continue to be in the same situation we're in today.
They say that it's 11% of children that are diagnosed, or young people that are diagnosed with attention problems, and that 30% of us walk around all the time. And I know as you get older too, with memory problems, attention problems, and those things. And that when what you're speaking about, it says that at night, because of the rush in the morning, and that at night, and this is what I want to ask, at night that you should prepare everything that you're needing for that day to help people who have attention difficulties. So the nutrition of the smoothies or the food preparation overnight,
Hmm.
is it, they could prepare, does it sustain the nutrients for the next day or 2 days, or they could prepare the and put it in the refrigerator in little jars, or
Yes, absolutely. You want to cut your fruits up. You want to cut your vegetables up. You can put it in containers. We prefer glass containers, but a lot of things you can put it in your plastic containers. And so in the morning, you just get up and like with our fruits that we use, we freeze everything. So we just take it out of the freezer. You put it in your blender. It's good to have a good quality blender and put it in your blender every day. And it takes about 3 to 5 minutes to prepare that. You blend it for 2 minutes, a minute and a half, and you're ready to go. You can add some other fruits to that to take with you, like kids. We do apple slices. You can do some banana. You can do some other fruits that add along with that. As a whole food substance to eat, but getting that smoothie in high in proteins again with the hemp seed, or we use chia seeds, or you can use flax seeds, whatever the seeds. But those are high fiber, high protein sources that go along with this movie. Will take you through the day. Kids can function much better. It really lowers their levels for being um, distracted when it comes to attention deficit because the sugars and the artificial colors is really what causes that distraction. So no colored beverages, no Kool-Aid, no Gatorade, those kind of things that really it's promoted on TV, but it's not a good source if you want to learn and have a focus. It's not good for that. So yeah, prepare at night. Even if you prepare your snacks for lunch and the next day, it's good to do that. Growing up as a child, that was definitely what we had to do in our household. That we had to prepare our lunch for school the next day, and we put it in our brown lunch bags and put it in the refrigerator.
yes, yes, that's right, that's right,
Yeah,
that's
and for the morning we grab our lunch bags when we're out the door because everything is prepared. We knew it was gonna have for lunch. We were happy with it because we prepared it and we knew what it was.
yes,
So
yes.
we have to try to get back to that. I know it's we look at it as going back, but it's a necessary change.
Yes. So then one of the things that I know is that this Wednesday at 10 o'clock
Uh-huh.
marks a debut of our mental health coaching and whole body wellness coaching program. And one of the things is that everybody will begin to rate themselves in terms of what they're eating. They're supposed to go to the doctor and get their checkups, as you said, their A1C, and all their panels done,
Yes.
schedule doctor visits. But the main thing is begin to take a class in how to help other people and themselves. And
Right.
so we're going to be doing food coaching. We've been working on it, for some years, but we're
Yes.
going to put it into a tight framework where we can get constant feedback from the individual.
Yes.
So they will take the class. So right now, one of the things that we're doing is, and listening to you, is people will have to prepare, sign up what they're preparing the night before
Yes.
for their food, and they will look at preparing their school supplies.
Yeah.
So we'll be helping them with how to get their book binders done, their mind organized,
Right.
their time, their schedule, their finances, everything will begin to look at how they're going to develop their normalcy.
Right.
And then we're going to have our little challenge where people will sign on so we'll know what
Yeah.
we're doing. It's something about, what do they call that, partner?
Accountability.
Accountability. Yes, yes. So we'll have accountability partners, and sometimes we need that to help us through. I know it helps me when
Yeah.
somebody calls and said, "Did you make your smoothie last night, or
Yeah.
did you take your vitamins? Did you
Right.
drink? How much water did you drink?"
Oh yeah. Or they share with you. They said, "Do you know what I did last night? I did this. I did that. I did this." And then it
Yeah,
helps you. Oh, well, I need to get on. I need to get on the case and do the same thing. But again, part of that schedule is at 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock. Turn the television off and focus on your own health and your own environment. What am I doing for myself tonight to prepare for the tomorrow? What preparation have I made? But you have to have a time for preparation, and people don't do that. I always tell people that even when it comes to food and nutrition, 20% of your life every day, 20% of your day should be focused on food preparation because it's the most critical thing, it's the most important thing we can do for our health. We focus less than 5%. We'll like I said, we go through that drive-through line at McDonald's, and if they take more than 3 minutes to get our food prepared, we're upset. And so it shows how much you value your health when you only spend 3 minutes for preparing something for you to put in your body that's going to control your quality of life and your quantity of life. You want to spend at least, like I said, 20% of the day. You know, Normally in years past when people we didn't have refrigeration, we had to buy food every day. For that day, we would spend time going to the market, buying the food, bringing it home, washing and preparing. It took time. Well, we can do it a little bit faster than that today, but it still needs time and preparation for that every day because that's the most important thing we do every day. It's not, getting to the job on time or getting the kids out the door and not having the kids going out the door healthy and prepared. We have to go out the door healthy and prepared, and we're letting that go and forgetting that. And this situation what we did with the coronavirus is bringing that all to light. People want to get back to a normal routine and a normal regimen, but they can't do it because again, they're not prepared. The more we continue to not follow guidelines, and let me get on my soapbox a little bit right here, because
mhm,
simple thing when we talk about prevention, they argue about wearing a mask. I don't want to wear a mask; it's violating my constitutional rights. Well, again, our subject today is caregiving. When you love others, you're not wearing a mask for yourself. You're wearing a mask for someone else. I
yeah,
had one patient challenge me just recently about wearing a mask. They didn't think they had to wear a mask. It wasn't important. And I kept saying, well, the mask is not for you. It's for other people because although you may be a carrier of a virus, you would share that with other people, but you have to protect other people like you protect yourself. It's not about the mask. And they say, well, I don't see why it's so important now. I said, well, as a medical professional, I'm a surgeon, a foot surgeon. I've been in ORs all my life. The first thing we learn in medical school before you do surgery on anybody is to wear a mask.
right.
And you say, well, masks are not beneficial. I said, well, why does the whole medical mean? Well, if I did surgery on you, would you want me to be breathing on you and spitting on you while I'm doing surgery? Or would you prefer I have a mask? And the mask not only protects you, it protects me. So just that one simple thing, mask is important. Social distancing. Now, it's all important because we want to do things proactively. We feel like it's violating our rights to some degree, but it's really not. It's really, again, we want to stop the spread of the virus. We want to protect our kids. One thing I want to say about viruses also is that viruses mutate. You know, every time we get a virus, the virus takes a little bit of our DNA and a little bit of their DNA, and it becomes something different when it multiplies in our body. And so it doesn't. Um, and I know people are waiting for vaccines. Vaccines may have a benefit, but viruses are constantly changing. So the vaccine they're working on today for a virus, in a year's time, it's going to be different. So
Yes.
it's not about the virus, it's about our health. It goes back to us taking care of our health, being prepared, preparing our bodies, keeping our bodies strong, keeping our bodies, giving it the things it's need, taking vitamins and minerals that we need to take, and we could talk about that a whole nother lecture on just nutritional supplements that would be helpful when it comes to uh, viruses and flus and colds.
Yeah, I think we should look at that coming up in the future
Yes,
about healing and vitamins and things
yes,
like that. And one of the things that you mentioned is that we skipping over is that, and we mentioned it, is the self appreciation, self valuing
yes,
things. And I think sometimes maybe we need to say that or engage in some way of looking back to appreciate the people in our lives or the people or our parents or things that we did. Uh, I was reading something the other day, and it was by, let's see, it is, somebody by the name of Levingston or something
yes,
that I read. But if this was what was important, it was saying that one, if you do not speak out your appreciation for the people who have gone before you,
yes,
and that think about those individuals, because you have to think about the love that they've given you and
yes,
think about that inside of yourself as a
right,
part of you, just as you're speaking about the nutrition, that
yes,
that, that is a part of you. And
yes,
so even when you're able to sustain difficulties, it is a part of something that someone else has given you that
yes,
you're holding on to.
yes.
So
Well,
when we're doing, say that again.
no, go ahead. You're right. I was going to agree with you on that because and that goes back to one thing I was never big on, but I've become more I guess acceptable is affirmations, is saying that because and that's what you're saying when you say that it has a bigger impact. And then to put a little scripture on it, put a little Bible on it, it
It,
says
so
faith cometh by hearing, and the word faith means to believe. So if you really want to believe something, it's not what you say, it's what you hear. So you
that's
have
what
to
you.
hear. Faith comes by hearing. So
Yeah.
believing comes by hearing. So if I say to you that this is good for you, or if I talk to my children and say, we do this because of this, we make these choices, we eat the food because the food is good for our bodies, and they hear what you're saying, and you hear what you're saying, and you set up your own affirmations, it has a greater impact on causing you to change your life. Because your faith doesn't come by doing, because you can't do enough to do that. It comes by hearing. So I understanding that's why affirmations and saying it out loud and doing the group therapies like you do with people and talking to people and getting people to talk. So even if you say it and you hear it yourself, you hear yourself saying, it has a tremendous impact. And so I think we really need to incorporate it into sessions and teaching people how to affirm what they believe.
hmm We're doing
True
something
belief.
called we're doing something called transformation, which
Yes.
is a part of that. It's a part of the food program and whatever. We may change the date. It's on Thursday evenings. People can sign up. But what one of the things is that you mentioned that you have to say it. Also, you have to be able to in order to plan it, you have to be able to visualize it. You have
Yes.
to be able to see it fit into your rhythm,
Yes.
into your family, into your life, and to see how. And it has to fit with your dreams, your desires, and things like that.
Yes.
Otherwise, it doesn't sustain. And
You're
so
right.
I think, and so I thought maybe today what we've talked about in terms of the caregiving love would be able to look at how we can help by parents sharing affirmations with their children at night and in the morning,
Yes.
and that we all need to do that whether we're parents or not, do that at night and in the morning while we're doing our food preparation, and also begin to lay out exactly what we need to do to ask for direction
Yes.
within ourselves. Some people say, well, who are you going to ask it from? But
Yes.
the thing about it is when you say something to yourself, if you believe whatever you want to believe in, the wind, the sun, I'm not going to tell people what to believe in, but
Right.
whatever it is, you have to then begin to move and make steps toward that in order for it to be accomplished.
Right.
And then so you want to lay out those particular steps that will fit to making it there. So
Right.
sometimes we have little activities that help us move there. So those are some of the things that we do, particularly around the food, the vitamins, um, and organization in the home.
Yeah,
Uh, in terms of laying things out, what's going to be taken to that day to school,
yeah,
what's not, and how to organize space in your mind.
yeah,
So those are some of the games and the things that we're going to try to do. And any suggestions that you have, we sure will appreciate them um, in our next show.
yeah,
So, and we can talk a few things now as to what we have not covered.
yeah,
And I would like to follow up on the vitamins, that, and I would like to follow up on healing tissues.
yeah.
Somebody asked, I want to see, and we have to get engaged with one of the hospitals to visit with us. They want to see a tissue that is not healed, and they want to see when the food is healing the tissue.
Uh,
Okay, like maybe a slide or I guess a video or something. They so I have teenagers and young adults who are asking me that, and
yeah,
they're I think it's their believability, the belief factor,
yeah.
and maybe knowledge. You,
Absolutely knowledge, because that goes back to
yeah,
biology. If you understand the basics of biology, you understand how every it goes down to what we call amino acids. Everything we eat has an amino acid in it, and that's the smallest breakdown of nutrients in food, and those are building blocks for our bodies. They're building blocks for our tissues. If you don't give the body the things it needs, it's like if you don't give a car oil and gas and water, it's not going to run. Our bodies are like cars, but we need those things to make it work. We need those underlying nutrient values to make it work. So we have those, and they make the parts work. They actually are the building blocks for everything to work. One thing I think people don't understand when it comes to that is that when you eat, the whole process of eating is to produce energy. Every cell in our body needs energy to work. Our heart does, our lungs do, our muscles do. If muscles don't have the magnesium, the calcium, and the potassium, those three minerals, like just three minerals, those are basic nutrients. You cannot produce energy. You can't move a muscle. The muscles will not function. Your heart muscle will not function. If you decrease the potassium level and don't have that, your heart will stop working. So for a person to say, well, how does it work? It goes back to basic biology. And, I don't know if they're not teaching it in school or they're not getting it in school, but that's where we would understand that. So yeah, we could talk about that, but and it doesn't, to me, it doesn't take faith to understand that. It just understands that anything in life, when you build a building, if you don't have a strong foundation, if you don't start with that, that building is going to crumble, it's going to fall. And so um, I would encourage people who have that question to pursue a career in the sciences and medical, and the answers are right there for them, whether they do it online or that this is whatever. But they can answer those questions very easily. But furthermore, to understand that we need to do something. They talk about it and they challenge what you say, but what do you do? Again, scripture says we need to be a doer of the word and not a hearer only. We can hear it, increases our faith, makes us believe, but then you have to do something. So what you're saying here is that we have to set aside, have a schedule, and I would be happy to contribute some things to the schedule what people can do as far as preparation, as far as food preparation, as far as preparing their lives. But preparation time is so key that you are prepared to do things. But today, our fast moving life doesn't just eliminates preparation. People just go from one thing to another thing and not be prepared, and then you wonder why things are not working out.
Okay, you can send me some stuff, but today I'm going to make a note of the things that we talked about,
Yes,
and then I think we're going to send that out to people,
yeah,
the people who are interested, and then kind of summarize. So some of the things that we're now saying, that we're going to go to bed earlier, we're going to have some preparation time.
yes,
We're going to monitor and make sure that we have the magnesium, the calcium, potassium
yes,
balance. We're going to look at the fiber that we have in our diet.
yes,
We're going to begin to be planful in terms of our lives, period. But we're going to be organized, preparing, decreasing the stress
yeah,
as we enter trauma. by organizing, putting in a proper place
Yeah.
things so that we can go back to them
Yeah.
and know where they are.
Yeah.
And that helps to create space, mental space, so that we can include other things in our brain.
Yes.
Okay,
And I
so
want to encourage people that, again, back to the food again, just a simple thing to understand that when it comes to the food and nutrition, and these are things we want to kind of remove from our diet. We just want to take out all of the white foods. That's the white flour, the white sugar, the white rice, the white potatoes, because all of those foods, although and it's a staple in America because it's easy to get, it's easy to kill your appetite that way. You can eat food and not be hungry. But those are low nutritional value foods and they're low fiber foods, and all of those things are tend to be high in starch value. As soon as you put a starch into your mouth, it converts to sugar. So therefore, your glycemic levels, your sugar levels go up in your body, and then that puts your pancreas and the other organs working, trying to control sugar. So again, we want to cut out those white foods. If you have a rice, more people, brown rice is becoming more popular. But I always encourage people to do a red rice or a black rice because they're higher in protein. It's more of a grass than a rice and lower in the starches that we have. And instead of doing a white potato, I encourage people to do a yam or a sweet potato. Although we call it sweet potato, it has a lower glycemic index or lower sugar level than a white potato. I could, when it comes to sugar, uh, we do white sugar, but I prefer people don't really do any added sugar to your diet. If you have to add sugar to your diet, then you're really not eating the proper foods, or you're not eating the foods the way they were intended to be eaten. So if you want to have something sweet, eat an apple. If you want to have something, or eat a fruit that has its own sweetener already involved in it. There are some natural sweeteners like xylitol or like stevia that have no glycemic index that don't have that sugar effect. The main thing with sugars in general is they cause inflammation. And chronic inflammation in our life is always an underlying cause of disease. All our diseases start off with inflammation. Something gets inflamed. Whether it's a joint, we call it arthritis, or whether it's a muscle, we call it myositis, or muscle pain. We get inflammation of our heart, that's cardiovascular disease. We get inflammation of our lungs, that's respiratory, that's asthma, and so many other things. Inflammation of our brain, and then we start having Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, a lot of degenerative disease of our brain. We get inflammation of our joints, that's arthritis. We get all this inflammation, but it comes again having an acidic or what we call inflammatory diet. We want to have, again, get back to that alkaline diet. And an alkaline diet means that we eat foods that are high in fiber, that tend to make us stimulate our immune system rather than reduce it, more raw vegetables and raw fruits. That's why a lot of what's popular now, what people are talking about, is that plant-based diet. But people don't understand that it should be a raw 80 to 90% raw plant-based diet. These days, they play plant-based diet. They'll make a processed food out of vegetables and make it into something you don't recognize and call it a burger or call it a hot dog, but it's plant-based. Or they make crackers, well, it's plant-based, but they make crackers, but it's been completely processed. So although it may be plant-based, the nutritional value is gone. If you want a plant-based diet, eat that carrot, have some deep dark green lettuces, spinach, chard, kale, cauliflower, broccoli, Brussels sprouts. I could go on and on down the list of things we can eat that are plants that we recognize when we eat them. You can lightly saute them. You can make salads with them. You can make rolls with them. There's so many things you can do with them. You can just simply blend them up in a food processor and make a coleslaw, a cabbage salad is a good plant-based diet. But those are the things that we really need to focus on when it comes to health, to decrease inflammation and increase our overall immunity and build health.
Oh, this is so good. This is so good. And you know what? We talk about it, but every time we talk about it, it's a little something different. It's a
Yes,
different take on it. I
yes,
want to thank you this morning. And I
yes,
know you're away giving your a workshop and presentation in Florida, but I want to thank you for getting up this morning
yes,
and helping us, what they say, get on our way to for whole body wellness. Thank
yes.
you so much.
Well, thank you for having me today.
Okay, very good. I want to thank the audience for being with us this morning. And just to say that we will be back on next Tuesday and we'll have wonderful information for you. And the thing about it is, I want you to remember that it is not the circumstances that we meet, it is the manner in which we respond that determines health happiness, and success. Please do not forget to go to wrc-houston.com, and we will begin to have summaries of the show. You can go to Mending Threads, Women's Resource Center, to review many of the shows. And we'll look forward to seeing you on next Tuesday. Oh, don't forget there is a donate button so that we can continue our programs. Go on there and donate either for the show to continue or for a young family needing clothing for school or hotspots. Okay, thank you, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you.